Good morning, everyone. I'm Pastor Tim. Happy Memorial Day to you. We're in our studies about Hebrews. And remember, that book was written to encourage people who want to give up, give out, and go away. They're discouraged, and life is beating them up, and they just don't want to do it anymore. And so the writer tells them this incredible story about the faith and the big picture and how God uses all kinds of things in our life, and don't be discouraged. But then in Hebrews 11:35, there's this chilling statement that the writer gives. He says some were tortured. They were tortured, refusing to accept release so that they might rise again to a better life. Oh my goodness, that just stops the train and makes us think at a whole different level. Let's look at an example of someone like that in Scripture and think about how that was lived out in their lives so we can put flesh and bones on the story. Acts chapter 14, verse 19 tells that Paul and Barnabas were preaching in Iconium, and the Jews and Gentiles got angry with them. They were highly resistant to the Christian faith, and so they fled to Lystra and Derbe. And so Paul and Barnabas have fled, but the crowds catch up to them and they stir up a riot, and they stone Paul and drag him out of the city, believing that he's dead. Now, he must have had head injuries. He must have been completely battered and bruised, and black eyes and blood everywhere. It was terrible. I believe personally that Paul thought it was his last day, and certainly all those other people did as well. And so a few days later, Paul awakens. His friends and fellow Christians relieved that they find out he's still breathing, and they nurse him back to health. And so it would have been easy to give up to the power of people instead of rely on the power of God, and for Paul to just say, you know what, I'm done. It's over. I've nearly lost my life. I don't want to preach anymore. This is too big of a risk. But Paul refuses to do that. He goes right back into the lion's den, so to speak. He gathered strength, and he encouraged the people back in the very town where they were going to execute him, and tried to do so. We won't be in Paul's shoes. We won't be tempted to face execution, I don't believe. But we might be tempted to give into the power of people about approval at the workplace, some activity that people do that we don't approve of, or something they ask us to engage in that we won't, or a friendship where we want acceptance, and so we're willing to trade our priorities and our convictions for acceptance, or social media where we want to have a certain kind of image, that we want to be perceived a certain kind of way. It's easy to give in to the power of people instead of relying on the power of God. But what if we were to rely on the power of God, to ask for His strength to sustain and help us to stand firm? Hebrews is that book that reminds us that there's a great cloud of witnesses who have gone before us, who have faced more difficult things than we can ever think or imagine, and they have remained faithful, and they have encouraged others, and we can do the same. Hebrews reminds us this will be a better life now and in eternity for us. So that's our call today. Live into the power of God instead of for the approval of people. What if we did that today? That's my prayer for us and for you. I'm Pastor Tim, and this has been our one-a-day journey of faith. God bless you.